Today we are on Kiowa Island, which is a barrier island just outside of Charleston, South Carolina. As you can see, we have the ocean over here, and then we've got a residential home, which I would describe as a high-end residential home. And we're going to be talking about the Proseco R-Guard products, Cat 5, Fast Flash Joint and Seaman Air Dam, and ease of application and why those products as a system perform so well in an environment like this. My name is Scott Kine. I'm with Spirit Sales Group. We are the rep group for Proseco in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Southern Virginia. All these are custom homes. So some of our transition areas are going to be what most folks might think problematic or difficult. And again, one of the advantages is when we start to talk about those, how do we handle a certain penetration? How do we handle a transition? Because those are the most critical areas. We know that we are completely making an airtight, watertight seal, but just in a very easy, fluid, simple manner. As you can see, some of these details are going to be tough. Some of these transitions are going to be tough. We've got a very expensive European window package, and so the owners obviously have a vested interest in to make sure that those windows don't leak, they don't have air loss coming in, and they could take advantage of this beautiful view. So let's quickly talk about our openings. This door is actually facing the ocean, so you can imagine during a storm, all the wind and the air are coming into this corner, so there's obviously a lot of pressure on this opening, and keeping water out during a hurricane is kind of important, right? So let's walk through the steps of getting this installed and getting it installed correctly. So if we have a rough opening to start out, we would go hit any kind of small gap or void. We would use this pink product here, and as I mentioned earlier, it's got fibers in it, so it can span that gap better than some of the other products do. It's designed to bridge those voids and gaps pretty well, actually. So after that's done, we're going to come in and we're going to do our rough opening. Both our doors, like we have here, and our windows, they're all going to be the same. We're going to flash our rough opening with Fast Flash. And so we'll turn that in, and it's important that we're going to come and flash past where the opening sits on the inside. And I'm going to tell you why here in a second. We want to come past this threshold. So what we'll do during a pre-construction meeting, or we'll instruct our contractors, is to get with the window contractor and say, hey, how far deep are these doors and windows coming? Let's mark that, because it's very difficult to come back afterwards and try to install more flashing to make the entire system work. So if you know that your door or window is coming in 4 or 5 inches, let's say 5 inches, tell our contractors, come in, make sure we go past 5. Let's come in 6 inches. Sometimes we might, if you have an 8-inch buck, just come all the way past, so that we make sure that we've got our flashing past where the door is going to sit. At our threshold, we've already have the rough opening flashed, and a lot of times what a contractor will do is, rather than taking a fastener and attaching this piece of flashing at the bottom of the threshold into the opening, they can go ahead and use Fast Flash as an adhesive that's going to hold it in place. We call that wet setting. And so that eliminates a fastener or screw going through our control layer that's obviously keeping air and water out of the building. Then once that is completed, what will typically happen is that when we put our air barrier on, that is just simply going to get rolled on, and it's going to lap right over the flashing that we already have in place. So for this scenario, our Fast Flash should come out 3 inches, and then after that's cured, they come back and roll our air barrier on, and we want to simply overlap our flashing and air barrier so that we have a continuous monolithic layer. And then finally, after we leave, our flashing's complete, and then when this contractor comes back in and he puts his waterproofing deck coating, whatever it happens to be, it'll simply transition up to here. We may or may not come back and run another pass of Fast Flash. What's important is that we just don't create any backwater laps. That's really going to be contingent upon what waterproofing system is used here. We just want to make sure that we have a good transition there's no backwater lapse, and then it's monolithic, so the water stays out of the inside, out of this window, out on the deck, and out away from the house. And then the next thing we're gonna do is that we're gonna run at our windows is that we'll have a bead of air dam on the inside. And what that's doing is that's creating that airtight seal so that if any, when air gets in past this threshold here, gets in on the inside, instead of having acrylic sealing in there, will tend to break down over time. We've got our air dam product which is made out of the same chemistry, our STPE chemistry, that is going to perform over time, and then we know that our building's going to be tight. It's a very challenging, difficult environment that we're building in, and partly is because right over to my right is the ocean, right? So we're in Charleston. It's extremely hot, it's extremely humid, and it's very difficult to get your control layer that's protecting your entire envelope, protecting your building, get that installed correctly without getting it impacted by both temperature, but more so rain and moisture. So every day here, probably at least 5-6 months out of the year, at 2 o'clock it's gonna rain. So you can imagine trying to put in your system that is gonna keep, protect the occupants, protect the interior from air, water, vapor. There's some parameters around that when it comes to rain and moisture. And our system performs so well, it allows the contractor to continue working, continue meeting scheduled demands because of the chemistry and the way the system and the products are designed.